Amazing students, this is Mrs. A and I love math. And tonight we're looking at lesson 59 in your Saxon Orange book, and we're talking about rearranging before substitution. Now we've talked about substitution before, but all of the substitution that we have done has been nicely canned and prepared substitution. In other words, we have one variable already solved for and one main equation. The sub-equation is obvious and already solved for one. Over here, we have a main equation, and then we have our sub-equation that already is solved for y. Those are obviously good to solve with substitution because they're already made up in that format. However, what happens when we want to use substitution and we don't have the equation already set up for substitution like we do here? Okay, so here's an equation that could be worked another way, a way called elimination, but we're going to use substitution, and it's not really set up for substitution. So what we do is we look for a variable that's all by itself. In other words, it doesn't have anything but a 1 in the front. That's the one we want to make our subvariable. So since I've targeted the one that only has a 1 in the front, I'm going to make that my sub-equation. I'm going to call this my main equation right here, and then I'm going to rearrange this one to become my sub-equation. And I'm going to say x, and then what if I just add a 2y and add a 2y to the other side? Then I would get the x by itself. X equals 2y minus 1. Now we're all ready to use substitution. So now that I have rearranged it, this one is my main equation, this one is my sub-equation. So I will write this one down and slide this one into this one. Now I'm going to make a little bit more space here, just so that I can keep it all on one board. So I'm going to write this one, but remember, because x is my sub, I'm going to leave a parenthesis there and plenty of room for my sub. So I'm going to write 2x minus 3y equals 4. And now I'm going to take the x from down here, I'm going to sub it back up in here, 2y minus 1. So now when I distribute here, I'm going to get 4y minus 2 minus 3y equals 4. Okay, well 4y, take away 3y, is just y. And then 2 times a negative 1 is a negative 2 equals 4. So now I'm almost to my y, right? So I'm going to add a 2 and add a 2, and y equals 6. Once I know what my y is, can't I go back into my sub-equation? Y is 6. 12 minus 1 is 11. So x is 11. And remember, I check it in my other equation. So x is 11, y is 6, 22 minus 18 is 4. So it checks, and my answer is the point 11, 6. That's the ordered pair. That is the answer. Okay, so now let's think about what our steps were. We had to rearrange our sub-equation so that it was solved for one of the variables. We substituted, sliding one equation into the other. We solved for one variable, plugged that variable back into the sub-equation, solved for the other variable, and then wrote it. I did check it, right? I checked it first and then wrote it as a solution point. Here's example 2. Again, it's not in the right form to use substitution. So I go on a little hunt for a variable that only has a 1 in the front, and this is the closest one I have to it. It's a negative 1. That's as good as we are going to get here. So what I'm going to do is rearrange this one to be the sub-equation and leave this one for the main equation. So what I want to do with the sub-equation is rearrange it to solve for y. Okay, so what I'm going to do is get rid of the 2x by subtracting a 2x, and over here subtracting a 2x. Then I'm going to get a negative y equals 10 minus 2x, because this cancels. Now, I have a negative y, but I don't have a y. To get a y, don't I just change all the signs? This becomes a plus, plus, minus. So to make it look better, y equals, I'm going to put the 2x in the front because that's our standard way of writing it, minus 10. And here is my sub-equation. Okay, so I had a main equation and a sub-equation. So now, can I write this one down? But now I'm going to leave a parenthesis where the y is instead of where the x is, because my sub-equation is a y equation. So 4x minus 3y equals 16. And then I'm going to plug in the y right there. So 2x minus 10. Okay, so I have my equation. So now I'm going to simplify this equation, which will give me my x value, and then plug my x value back into my sub-equation. All right, so let's go up here and get a little bit of space. We don't need a lot of space, but we do need a little bit of space. So we're going to simplify this equation right here. So 4x minus 3 times 2 is 6x. So 4x minus 6x, negative 3 times a negative 10 is a positive 30 equals 16. Okay, so let's simplify this. So negative 2x plus 30 equals 16. Now I want to get the 2x by itself, so minus 30, and I'm going to get negative 2x equals, so 30 minus 16 is 14, so it's a minus 14. So negative 2x is a negative 14. Divide by a negative 2, and divide the negative 14 by a negative 2. I'm out of space, so I'm making it, so x is 7. X is 7. So now what are we going to do with that 7? X is 7. We're going to plug it right there to find out what our y is. 14 minus 10 is 4. So y is 4. Okay, so now we've checked it in this one. The only thing we have left to do is to check it back into our main equation here. So we're going to plug it in there. X is 7. Y is 4. 28 minus 12. 28 minus 12. Is that 16? And it is, isn't it? Therefore, that verifies that my answer is correct, and my answer was 7, 1 is the ordered pair. So I know that's kind of hard to read because it's all over the place, but I'll try to write the next one a little smaller. I wrote a little smaller, so maybe I can keep it a little bit neater. Now, I have a 4, a negative 2, a 2, and a 1. So this is the one that I want to isolate for my sub-equation. So I'm going to call this the sub-equation, this the main equation. Okay, so I'm going to rearrange this one. I want to get the y by itself, so I'm going to subtract the 2x, subtract the 2x on the other side. This cancels. Y equals negative 2x plus 25. Okay, so now here is my sub-equation. So next step is I'm going to write this out, but I'm going to leave a nice big space and a parenthesis where the y is. So 4x minus 2y equals 38. And right here, I'm going to substitute the sub-equation, because it is y plus 25. So now I'm going to solve for x. 4x minus 2 times a minus 2x is a positive 4. X minus 2 times 25 is a minus 50 equals 38. 8x minus 50. What if I just go ahead and add 50 and add 50 over here? So this cancels, and I get 88. Divide by 8, divide by 8, and I get x equals 11. Okay, x equals 11. So now that I know that x equals 11, I'm going to go back into my sub-equation. X is 11. Y is negative 22 plus 25. So y is 3. So now I'm going to check. I'm going to plug this answer into my original main equation, which is way up there. Okay, so let's go back up there to the main equation and plug in the 11 for the x. See if I can do that real tiny here. 11 for the x and a 3 for the y. Let's just check it, okay? So we have 4 times 11 is 44. Minus 6 is 38. And that, my friend, is true. Therefore, our answer is verified as 11, 3. The ordered pair 11, 3 is the solution. There is the board. A little bit neater. A little bit neater. Not terribly neat, but a little bit neater. I am not the neatest writer, am I? It's always been one of my flaws. Okay, so here is your first of 2 practice problems. We're almost done. It's a pretty fast lesson. Now, I would like you to copy it down and pause your video. Remember, we're using substitution is the whole point behind this lesson. So, we're going to try to get one variable by itself. So I'm going to pick that one to isolate. So now, go off and do it on your own and see if you can get it right. All right, hopefully you did that. So we're going to take this as our sub-equation and this one as our main equation. Now, I'm going to rearrange this equation. I'm going to do it right over here. I'm going to add a 3y to both sides. So I'm going to get x equals 3y minus 7. Just adding a 3y to both sides. Now we have our sub-equation all ready to go. We're going to take our main equation. Since we're subbing in an x, we're going to leave a spot for it. So 2 parentheses, there's my big X, minus 3y equals 4. I sub in my x is 3y minus 7. I'm going to solve for y. 6y minus 14 minus 3y equals 4. So this is going to be a 3y minus 14 equals 4. And add 14 and add 14 to the other side. I get a 3y equals 18. Y equals 6. I divide both sides by 3. I get y equals 6. I take the y is equal to 6. I go back up into the sub-equation. So my sub-equation, remember, was sitting right up there. So I'm going to go back up there. I'm going to plug in y is 6. I'm going to plug it in right there. So 3 times 6 is 18 minus 7 is 11. So x is 11. Now, I have come up with my proposed point. I have checked my point here because that's what I solved it for. But now I have to go back to my main equation right here and see if 11/6 is a valid answer. So I'm going to plug in 11 there and a 6 right there. 2 times 11 is 22. And minus 3 times 6 is minus 18. And 22 minus 18 is 4. Therefore, my answer is verified. How did you do? Did you get 11, 6 for your solution? I hope so. This is our last practice, and it's kind of cool because there's 2 of our variables that we could use as our subvariable, because this one has a 1, this one has a -1, but I'm going to use the one that is just a 1 to make it a little bit easier. Now, those of you who already know how to solve by elimination can recognize that this one is already set up very nicely for elimination. We'll talk about that one more in the future, but that's not what we're doing today. If you want to, you can solve it by elimination and substitution, and just verify in your mind that, hey, the solution is going to be the solution no matter which way we solve it. But we're doing substitution, so I'm going to take this one as my sub, and I'm going to take this one as my main equation. Okay, so now I'm only one step away from making this a good sub-equation, right? I want to get the y by itself, so I'm going to subtract the 2x, and I'm going to subtract the 2x on the other side. And then I'm going to rewrite that thing and say y equals, that goes away, negative 2x plus 25. So there's my sub equation. So now I'm going to take my main equation and write it out, but since my sub is a y, I'm going to leave a space where the y is. So 4x minus y equals 41. The y now comes in as a sub, negative 2x plus 25. And I'm going to simplify 4x minus a negative 21. So that's a minus 1 being multiplied by minus 2, so I get a plus 2x. Minus 1 times a 25 is a minus 25 equals a 41. 4x plus 2x is a 6x minus 25 equals 41. Let's add a 25, and let's add a 25 to the other side. So now we have a 6x equals a 66. So x equals 11. Now I'm going to take the x, go back into the sub-equation up here. So x is 11. Negative 2 times 11 is negative 22. Plus 25 is a 3. Y equals 3. So now I'm going to take my solution and check it into my original main equation. So I'm going all the way back up here, and I'm going to plug in x is 11 and y is 3 right here and right here. So we have 4. X was 11 minus y. Y is 3 equals 41. Okay, so is it right? 4 times 11 is 44. Take away 3 is 41. So our answer is verified here. So we would write that x, comma, oops, not x, but we'll write 11, comma, 3. We are done with our lesson and our practices. And so now you get to go and show that you understand this concept by doing your homework. And homework is very, very important because you can't learn without practice. I've done it awful lot of math practice over the years. And this is Mrs. A, and may God bless your day.